All right, my beloved Madridistas, welcome back to Madrid. Okay, this is the video that you guys have all been waiting for. This is the video that you guys have been asking for, which is what the hell happens now? And this is, the dust has settled after the Bayern match. This is a club that is not used to this situation. Okay, we have not had back-to-back trophyless years in 16 years. This is not something acceptable under any circumstance here. And I can tell you that the atmosphere here is very, very tense. And we're kind of in a code red state of emergency, and there is a massive sense of urgency to fix all of this. I want to discuss everything, what happened in the locker room the other night with Florentino Perez, at the managerial level, at the coach level, what could possibly happen. Players need to come and go, and we'll talk about which players could come and go. All of this is massively important. We are at a very important inflection point in our history. This is mission critical, and we, like I say, we are absolutely not used to being in this situation. Okay, let's talk about what happened the other day after the match. And Florentino, this was reported in the press, and a lot of you guys have asked about this. Florentino went down to the dressing room, and the first thing that he said to the players is thank you for your effort and thank you for your hard work. He made that clear to start. But then he said something that I think for the players really felt like a kick in the nuts. And he basically said to them that, you know, many of you have not been worthy of the standards of this club. Many of you are not playing at the level that this club requires, the privilege that it is to play in this club. He said that, having one trophyless year is a disaster at Real Madrid. Having two is completely unacceptable and unsustainable. He said that the highest privilege for any player in the world of football is to wear the Real Madrid jersey, and that many of the players, and he said this apparently to the entire team in the locker room, that many of the players, he didn't single anyone out, but he said many of the players here have not been worthy of the honor and the privilege of wearing this jersey. Now, I can tell you that this landed like a kick in the nuts, because if you ever watch footage of the interaction between the players and Florentino Perez, they have an enormous amount of deference to Florentino. And you look at like the look on their face and the look in their eyes when they meet Florentino, it's a combination of deference, affection, and fear. The players have a lot of respect and fear for this guy, and for Florentino, who's usually very warm and very supportive with his players, for him to say something like that to their face is an absolute kick in the nuts. And I think a lot of players were very, very affected by this, and it's very unusual to hear Florentino say something like this, but I think it had to be said, and I think he needed to remind, by the way, Florentino's made a lot of mistakes, so we'll talk about that later, but he did remind them of the responsibility of wearing this jersey, and that many of them had failed in the honor and the privilege that it is to play at this club. Now, before we move on to the other things, I want to address the issue of ego, because ego players and all that, because a lot of people talk about this, and I can tell you that over the decades, this is probably one of the most exaggerated things that you will hear in the media and in the mainstream press. Yes, it is true that on the pitch, there is a little bit of trash talking and players give each other shit. It's very, very common. The other day, Jude and Vini had a little altercation. This is absolutely normal. When you are talking about extremely high pressure environments, I worked on a trading floor on Wall Street for years, and I almost went to blows with people. But 2 hours later, we're sitting at lunch, and the same pressure that creates these tensions is the same pressure that bonds you. And if you look at the relationship between these players, it is very good. And any footage that you see, in any documentary that you see, any behind the scenes Valdebebas footage that you see, these players love each other and they respect each other. Yes, in the heat of the moment, there is going to be a lot of altercations because you're under an enormous amount of pressure, but these things are normal. It is extremely normal. It is all part of football, and it's part of playing in sort of very, very high intensity environments. So I want to kind of, tone that issue down a little bit. I want to dial it down because a lot of people talk about, there's ego problems in the dressing room. I've been hearing this for decades, okay? There's call it the Galacticos, the post-Galactico era, then when Cristiano and that Bale was jealous. And all that. This is not true, okay? The players get along very well. There is no, by the way, there's no formal sort of who's number one, who's number two. Like the players don't think in those terms. They all treat each other with respect, and they're all kind of in it together. And yes, sometimes there are confrontations, but this is very natural. So I just want to mention that because you do hear a lot of stuff about this ego. I've been hearing this my whole life, and it's never really been an issue. So I think that gets grossly exaggerated. Okay, let's talk about the manager situation first and what should happen with Arbeloa. Now, let's be fair about this. Arbeloa has not done a bad job, okay? He has not done a bad job, and I think we have to give him a lot of credit, okay? This is, you know, Arbeloa beat Guardiola City, which is not an easy thing to do. He beat Simeone's Atlético de Madrid, which is not an easy thing to do. We went toe-to-toe in our weakest moment, and probably one of the weakest Real Madrid sides that we've seen in a long time. We went toe-to-toe with Bayern, and we could have won that match, and we came very, very close to going through, and the way that match ended was a tragedy. But the point is that I think all in all, Arbeloa has done a really reasonable job. And in terms of the possibilities going forward, he should at least be considered. Now, I don't think the club will do it. I don't think that the club will extend him, but I don't necessarily think that that is a good idea. I think that Arbeloa should at least be considered a candidate to stay on, because I think that the job he's done in very, very little time was not that bad. I mean, he has done, and this, again, this is one of the most frail Real Madrid versions we've seen in a long time, and yet we were very competitive against very competitive teams, and in the little time that he's been here, I think he's done a reasonable job. Now, knowing what I know about the management and the thinking of this club, I just kind of doubt they'll keep him on. I don't think that it would be a bad idea, but I just don't think that they'll do it. I think that the club is entertaining different ideas, and we'll talk about what some of those ideas are. Now, the big problem is that there are no obvious options, okay? Like, the Zidanes and the Ancelottis, those are kind of the obvious high pedigree people. They're just not available, and you don't have very many of them in the world. So it's very, very difficult to pinpoint who the ideal manager of Real Madrid would be, because there are just not that many options. Now, if we go through the kind of options, look, Zidane is not going to come. He's waiting for the France job. I know that Madridismo would love for Zizou to return, because even though it sounds ridiculous to bring Zidane back again, like it sounds, you know, a little crazy for most clubs, but Real Madrid is a highly nostalgic club. Real Madrid is a club that is extremely connected to its history, to legacy. We are fanatical about the players and individuals that have brought glory to our club, and I know that Madridismo would absolutely love it. And I know it sounds crazy maybe to other people in other clubs, but in Madridismo it would make sense. The problem is that Zizou is probably waiting for that France job after this World Cup to sort of take over after that to the next Euro and the next World Cup. So I doubt very much that this would happen. Also, Zizou is somebody that knows really well the pressures that are involved in being the manager of the Real Madrid squad. It is literally many, many sleepless nights, unbelievable pressure every minute of every day. He knows this better than anyone, and I just don't think that he's up for that at the moment. So that's not really, as much as we would love it, it's not an option. Okay, Klopp is the other sort of kind of senior, high pedigree type of guy that we would love to see. But I just doubt very much that we're going to be able to convince him. I know that Real Madrid would probably throw the kitchen sink at him and offer him like everything in the world, but I just don't see it, okay? He left Liverpool because he was burnt out. We know this. He's an individual that is notoriously averse to the politics of big clubs. He just doesn't like the politics. And there is no more high intensity place than Real Madrid. I don't think that he's in the mood for the kind of pressure and even politics that are involved in managing the Real Madrid squad. So I have a very hard time seeing Klopp come. Also, I think he has a management position now with the Red Bull organization. So he's probably in a happy place right now. And again, taking on the role of Real Madrid coach, it's like honestly, the biggest challenge of anyone's life and the most responsibility he would have ever had. And is that something he wants to take on? But by the sounds of it, I don't think so. I know that Real Madrid will try everything in their power to bring him, but I doubt very much that he'll come. Okay, another kind of high probability candidate would be Didier Deschamps. Now, normally, I wouldn't sort of think that that's an intuitive fit for us. But like I say, we just don't have a lot of options. There's just not that many obvious options out there. And because there aren't any really obvious heavy hitters out there, he becomes a higher probability candidate by default. Now, what I can say about him is that, look, he, like I say, normally probably wouldn't be sort of top of our list, but look, he is somebody that's won a World Cup. He has a very good relationship with Kylian. He has a very, relationship with Tchouaméni. It is a realistic option. I don't know what probability I would attribute to it, maybe 20, 25, but something reasonably high. But that is a name that is certainly out there. And I know that Didier would probably love the job because, I mean, there's just nothing bigger or juicier than coming to Madrid with the skill of this squad and all the talent here and the history and the legacy. It's like, it's probably the highest sort of job you could get. So I'm sure that he would want to come, and I do think that he's probably on the cards as a candidate. Okay, Pochettino, another one that sort of, his name is thrown around a lot. Look, he does have experience with big players, and he has had a dressing room with sort of big personalities. So he does have experience in that regard. I think that his winner aura has subsided a little bit in recent years. There was a time when he did have a sort of really, really good kind of aura. What he did at Spurs was really impressive. But I think that since then, his sort of winner aura has kind of died down a little bit. So Pochettino is certainly a candidate that I know some of the board of directors do like. But I think he's probably slightly lower probability than Deschamps, if you ask me. Okay, other names out there. Okay, Mourinho. Some people have talked about the possibility of Mourinho coming back, and look, he does have a very good relationship with Florentino, like at a personal level, and that's obviously an important factor. But I kind of don't see it. I kind of don't see it because Mourinho is a very divisive guy. He's a protagonist. I mean, he loves attention. He tends to monopolize attention. It does become a little bit distracting. Like Mourinho, it kind of becomes a bit of a Mourinho circus everywhere he goes. And he can be a little bit divisive. I remember that when he was here, he even got Madridismo a little bit divided. Sort of part of Madridismo absolutely loved him, like the Ultrasur and some of these guys like really love Mourinho. But then another big segment of Madridismo didn't like him because his character, he's very outspoken, he just draws a lot of attention. Historically, Real Madrid like managers that are very low-key, very soft-spoken. Del Bosque, Zizou, Ancelotti, these kind of like quiet guys. That's kind of more our style. Mourinho is the opposite of all of that. So I know he would love to come because he has a very good connection with this club and they have a lot of history and a great relationship with Florentino. But I don't think that would be something that I would bet on. So I think that's low probability. Okay, Allegri is another name that has come up. Look, he's a sort of very professional guy. I think in terms of personality, it fits. But I mean, does he have the weight and the pedigree to manage Real Madrid? That's kind of questionable. So he's definitely a candidate, but I don't know if he's sort of a leading candidate, if you ask me. Other people have mentioned Iraola, and I think even in the comments section on my channel, you guys have brought his name up. I just don't think. Look, he's done an amazing job in the EPL. Like he's done a great job, but I just don't think that he has the pedigree or the experience at the very, very highest level to come to a place like Madrid. I think that would be highly experimental and a little bit risky. So I don't really see that. I think at the moment, kind of. The highest probability events would be Deschamps, maybe Allegri, Klopp I don't think is going to come, or maybe keeping Arbeloa on another year, which is something that I would not necessarily be averse to, but I just think that, the way that management thinks, when we're in a situation like this, they really like to sort of cut, burn, and hit the reset button. So I think keeping Arbeloa, they would associate with kind of a perpetuation of the current situation, even though that may be totally incorrect, but I think kind of their mentality is this way. So I think that they're more likely to make a change. And the other day when Arbeloa was interviewed in the press conference, the way that he spoke kind of sounded like a goodbye. It almost sounded like he's accepting his fate. So I don't know if they've had conversations yet. I doubt that they've had them yet, but I think that Arbeloa is probably assuming that he won't be renewed. I have to say that I love the way that he takes responsibility for things. I think that if you're a coach, that's the thing that you should do. I think he's part of the club. His DNA is 100% Real Madrid. His humility and the way he deals with situations is really elegant and very classy and very, very compatible with the values of the club. But I think that he's kind of assuming that he won't get renewed, and I just don't think that they will. Even though maybe he deserves it, I just don't think they will. Okay, let's turn to players, and now things get juicy. First of all, the financial condition of the club, and this is something important because people talk about, Real Madrid is like in debt and all this stuff. Like, this is another thing that is spun in the media that is grotesquely exaggerated. And what a lot of people don't know, and I'm a finance guy and I can tell you this, that a lot of the money that was spent refurbishing the Bernabeu is that loan is not carried on the Real Madrid balance sheet. Okay, when they did the 1 point whatever billion euros it was to refurb the Bernabeu, they created a separate legal entity, a separate investment vehicle with third-party investors. Real Madrid is one of the investors, but there were third-party investors, and the debt was collateralized. They got a very good interest rate, very low. I think it's like around 2% or under 2%. But that loan was collateralized against the future revenues that the stadium will collect from concerts and other activities. So that was financed outside of the balance sheet of Real Madrid. So Real Madrid is not holding that debt on its balance sheet. So the idea that Real Madrid is somehow in financial distress is simply not true. If there's anything that Florentino is good at, it's numbers and finance. We have access to tremendous amounts of capital and credit. If we need to spend a lot of money this summer, which I think we do, we certainly have access to it. So I just don't think that this is a big deal. So, that's just something that I think is also exaggerated. If we need to spend money, we have it, and we probably will spend it. Okay. In terms of people coming and going, the way that the club will probably approach this is to let people leave first. So first you deal with the exits, and then you deal with the new incorporations. That's traditionally how things have worked. It's the most sensible way to do it because it allows you to know what positions are vacant and how much money you have to spend. So it makes sense to deal with the exits first and then the newcomers. Now, it'll be very interesting to see if Real Madrid waits until after the World Cup, because Real Madrid has been known to, it's not the smartest thing in the world, but Real Madrid has been known to buy players that have had a really, really good World Cup. I mean, we did it with James Rodriguez, we did it with Keylor Navas, and Real Madrid likes to see how players perform in the biggest venues of all, because playing at Real Madrid, you're under a huge amount of pressure, and if a player can perform under really, really high pressure situations, that's something that catches our attention. So it is possible that Real Madrid will want to wait until after the World Cup and see how people have performed before making a decision. Now, it does make players more expensive. This is true. The smarter thing to do would be buy them before, and then they go up in value if they have a good World Cup. But I mean, historically, Real Madrid has liked to sort of see how players do in the big venues before making a commitment, even if it means that you have to pay a little bit more. But let's start with the weak spots, okay? Lunin, let's start in goal. Okay, Lunin, we're all really grateful for what he did in the 23-24 season. It was absolutely outstanding, and he will be a part of Real Madrid history forever, and we will all love him and appreciate him forever. His demeanor has always been very professional. He's shown a lot of loyalty to this club. Any interview, the way that he handled sort of not playing that Champions League final after having done so well in the knockoff stages, like the way that he handled that, the way that he sort of was like cheering Courtois on, and just his level of camaraderie and solidarity, like in terms of personal values, he's somebody that really is Real Madrid DNA, and we love him. But I do think that he showed us his limitations, especially in these matches against Bayern, and I wouldn't be surprised if Real Madrid tries to find a second goalkeeper that's maybe a little bit more steadfast, because Lunin looked very insecure to me, very, very insecure. If you notice against Bayern, not just the goal that he conceded, which was absolutely ridiculous, but in none of the corner kicks, like I noticed this, all the corner kicks of Bayern were very, very closed. It was very, very close to the goal, and in none of those corner kicks did Lunin attack the ball and come out of goal and attack the ball. he was waiting under the sticks, even in corner kicks that were very, very narrow. And that is a sign of insecurity, and that is very dangerous, because if that ball falls on the wrong head, it's a goal. So I think Lunin has lost a lot of his zest, and I wouldn't be surprised if the club tries to find another sort of second string goalkeeper in Lunin's place, and maybe Lunin would fall to third. I don't know, but it's a possibility. Okay, the right back position. We need another right back. And look, a lot of you guys said that I was very critical and like too harsh on Trent the other night. I was too harsh on everybody the other night because I was really pissed off, and that's kind of how I felt. But I just don't think he played a very good game. I thought his first half was very, very poor. He did do some things well, but I think he did a lot of things wrong. I think, since he's arrived, I think his defending, generally speaking, has been very soft. He has done some very interesting things going forward, and he showed us that when he wants, he can make very good passes. He's had a few runs up the middle that were very compelling, that kind of broke through lines that I thought was really cool to see, very aggressive. So he has done some things offensively, but I think defensively he's just soft. And Carvajal is now, I think, sort of, way past his prime. And I just think we need to solidify the right back position. I think Trent needs competition. And I think that we need to bring a high caliber right back. That's something that I think is absolutely necessary. The center back positions, I think we need two. Okay, not one. I think we need two. First of all, I think it's very possible that Asensio will be sold. And Asensio is in one of those tricky positions where he's shown us that he's good enough to come in as a substitute, and he's done a really good job. But I don't think that the management feels that he's good enough to be a regular starter at Real Madrid. And I think there's a possibility that Asensio is going to be sold. Rudiger's already 34. He'll probably get another year because he's really solid, and he's probably good to have in certain situations. I don't see Rudiger starting every match next season because simply his age, to be honest. But I do think he's an important guy to have as a backup because of his experience, his size, his physicality. But I think we need to bring two center backs because I think Asensio might leave. Rudiger's already getting a little bit old. Housen is proving that he's a little bit soft sometimes. We need two more center backs. And if I were in charge of this, I would spend a hell of a lot of money bringing extremely high. I would pay up for center backs because I think it's absolutely critical. Okay, the left back position, I think we also need to bring another left back. And Mendy is a wonderful defender, but he's not reliable because he's always injured. Okay, it's that simple. Fran gives 100%. He's an amazing professional, and I love his attitude. And he's very kind of good going forward. He loves to go forward and brings a lot of energy. He runs his ass off. But I think that he's also a little bit soft defensively. His physical characteristics, he's speedy, but he's not steely. He's not like muscly. And I think that we need, Carreras has proven to be a reasonable left back, but I don't think that he's a fabulous left back. He's good going forward because he's very technical. Carreras dribbles very well. He can do the 1-2s. He can get into the box. Offensively, he brings a lot. Defensively, from time to time can be a little bit soft as well. And I think Carreras needs competition. And because we can't rely on Mendy, Fran is also a player that I think could be sold, potentially could be sold, where he's shown that he's good enough not to start regularly at Real Madrid, but he's certainly good enough for other clubs. So I think that the club could monetize. We could get some money out of Fran. So I think Fran might leave, and Mendy is not reliable from a medical standpoint. So I think we need another left back to give Carreras competition and to make sure that we have a solid option if Carreras is injured, or maybe even have Carreras step into the second position and bring somebody else. But I think we need another left back. So in the defensive line alone, we need one right back, one left back, and two center backs. So, start adding it up because, your Amex bill is going to go crazy here. Okay, let's move to the midfield. I think Camavinga is going to go. I think they're going to let Camavinga go, so we need another pivot. Okay, Tchouaméni has done a fabulous job this year. I think we can all agree that that's the case. But we need another pivot. I mean, Camavinga is not going to be healthy the whole season and play every single minute. We need another pivot on the basis that I think Ceballos is leaving and I think Camavinga is leaving. We're going to need another pivot, and I think that we probably need another creative midfielder. And we have amazing midfielders, and it's amazing to me that with the quality of the midfielders that we have, something is still missing. So Arda is incredible. Like Arda is slowly becoming not just one of our best players, but a leader in this squad. And his Arda's attitude the other night, I loved. And he got a red card because he was cussing at the ref at the end. And you know what? Good. Because somebody needs to show balls in this team and somebody needs to show leadership. And I love that Arda's one of those players that he gives 100% in every single match. Like, the one thing Madridismo hates is players that administer their energy, right? That regulate and titrate their energy. Like, well, you know, we're playing Getafe, so I'll play at 80%, but I'll only give 100% when I'm in the Champions League against Bayern. Arda doesn't do that. He gives 100% all the time. He runs his ass off. He helps defensively. He's scoring incredible goals. He's getting more and more confident, and he's taking more and more of a leadership role. I love this kid, and I just think that Arda's going to do amazing things in this club, and I'm really happy. The red card the other day, he was telling the ref off, and good. Somebody's got to do it, and I'm really happy that he showed some balls and said what had to be said. So I don't care what the sanction is. I love that attitude. So we have incredible midfielders. Jude, technically speaking, is really wonderful. He's gifted technically. Fede Valverde is a machine. Tchouaméni is an amazing pivot, and yet. Despite all his talent in the midfield, and we got Pitar, who runs around a lot, he's really good off the bench, but something still seems to be missing in terms of dynamism and creativity. I think we need to bring one more creative midfielder. I would give my left leg to bring Vitinha. I mean, I think Vitinha is probably the best midfielder in the world right now. He's exactly what we need because he's a great passer of the ball, but he's so good in carries. Like he can carry the ball so well. He's very dynamic and he passes well, shoots well. Like Vitinha has it all. But of course, there's no way in hell we're going to be able to get Vitinha. I don't know. It would be very hard. PSG will do anything in their power to make sure that never happens. But I do think we need another creative midfielder. And then let's move up to the forwards. And this is where the juicy stuff comes in. I think that Gonzalo is another player that might be sold because he fits into that category of he has been good enough and showcased to the world where he has market value, but he's not a starter consistently. I don't think that the management feel that he is good enough to be a regular starter at Real Madrid, but he does have the visibility and has proven enough to monetize. So he falls into that kind of Fran category and that kind of Camavinga category where they have enough visibility and are considered good enough by the world, right? I mean, they're not bad. But they're not, not good enough to be consistent players at Real Madrid. So if they have monetary value, I think he's the type of player that we might sell. But Gonzalo is also the only natural number 9 we have. So if Gonzalo leaves, we do need a natural number 9 because there may be matches where we want to play a 4-3-3, and there may be matches, depending on the manager that comes, there may, maybe the manager that comes wants to play with a number 9, right? And we might want to play a 4-3-3 from time to time. So we do need a natural number 9. Gonzalo is good. He can certainly play that position, but I think that we probably want a more higher caliber number 9. So I think that's something else that could happen that I would like to see is another natural number 9 come to the squad. In terms of players leaving, I mean, like I told you, Lunin, Carvajal at this point, I could see him walking away. He's a living legend, and we should all have a giant ceremony for him because he is a living legend, and he's very valuable in the dressing room. But I think Carvajal has gotten to a point in his career where I could see him maybe not staying. Rudiger, maybe one more year as a good stopgap. I think Ceballos will leave. I think Asensio could be sold. I think Camavinga could be sold. As I say, I think Fran could be sold. I think Gonzalo might be sold. We know that Alaba is going to go. And by the way, when Alaba leaves, he's going to release a lot of money because Alaba is one of our highest, in terms of salary, one of our highest paid players. So when Alaba leaves, it's going to, in terms of financial fair play and like budgeting, that's going to release a lot of money in terms of salaries. So those are the players that I think will leave. Now, in terms of what happens up front with Vini and Kylian, and this is like the massive question that everyone's hysterical about everywhere you turn. Okay, this is going to be controversial, and I'm going to leave it up to you guys to think whatever you want, so don't shoot the messenger. I think that there is a very good case to be made for one of these guys to leave. And I do think that they are part of the duplication problem in the squad. I think that they are part of the imbalance problem of the squad. And right now, if you ask me, I think that it is more likely that we let Vini go than Kylian, okay? Because The truth is, but don't shoot the messenger, okay? Now, Vini has 17 more months left in his contract, so, is he going to get renewed now? I kind of doubt it. You could sell him now for a little bit of money because he has another year left on his contract, and there are clubs that I'm sure would love to have him. You could get some money from Vini now. Otherwise, he could play another season, and then you could just let him leave. So if you're not gonna bet on Vini for the future, it would be better to let him go now than have him walk away as a free agent. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with Vini this summer. But let me just play devil's advocate, and don't come after me. Like, hey, Vini's done wonderful things for this club, but I think that you could make a strong case for him to leave, and I'm just going to present that case, and you guys can decide whatever you want. Vini is no longer at the same level that he was in the 23-24 season. He just is not, okay? I hate to say this, but he's just not. He's never returned to that level. Secondly, Vini is a massive distraction. It's just such a distraction all the time. Like, the drama surrounding this player is a little bit exhausting. It's always like issues with the ref or issues with the crowd or issues with the manager. Like, it's just, there's too much noise. Real Madrid doesn't like this, okay? We like players who shut the fuck up and play football. This is the way that Real Madrid is. Like, we like Toni Kroos and Luka Modric, like guys that are just Benzema, like guys that are just Chris. They're quiet, they work their ass off, and they play football, and that's it. You never hear anything else. This is what Real Madrid loves, and Vini's kind of the opposite of that. He's just always the center of attention. There's always some controversy, and you can make a case that it's just very distracting. For the football that he's bringing now, it's really distracting. Maybe not in the 23-24 season, but what Vini brings to you now, my God, the price that you pay in terms of just drama and bullshit is really high. Okay, another thing that we can say about Vini is that he's really inconsistent in the final third, and he's scored incredible goals in the past, but he's also missed unbelievable things. Like, some of the things that he does in the final third are just inexplicable. And by the way, if Vini would leave, it would allow Kylian to play on the left finally, and it would maybe restore a little bit of balance. So don't come after me. And I think that there's a strong case to be made to let Vini go. I think he's an amazing player. He's done amazing things. But I do understand the rationale in the minds of many people to let Vini go. But again, don't shoot the messenger. This is something you guys can tell me in the comments section what you think. But there's just so much drama. Anyway, okay. Now we also have to talk about management, because a lot of the problems that we have, it's not just the coach and the players. I mean, a lot of the problems that we have are decisions made by Florentino Perez and the management team. And a lot of the players that we brought, and I've discussed this to death on the channel, I'm not going to do it again, but a lot of the decisions that have been made, even, for example, when Xavi was here and there was that issue with Vini where he kind of, made a big drama because he got substituted, and we had the impression that management was backing Vini and not Xabi Alonso. That is a terrible mistake. So it's not just that Florentino and Jose Angel and Unique Arafat, it's not just that they brought players capriciously that don't necessarily fit, and when they've created a kind of very unbalanced squad. It's not just that. That's one level of problems that they are responsible for. But there's also the issue of, backing the coach. And I think management should always back the coach. I think that in that situation, management should have backed Xavi and said, if you want to sit Vini the next match, sit him. You're in charge here. And I think it was a mistake to do that. Now, don't confuse that with the broader Xavi issue, because, Xavi, and I advocated after the Celta match for him to leave, because it was 7 months of watching our football decline and deteriorate. Like, literally, you expect things to improve, not get worse. And we were just falling off a cliff, and every match seemed experimental. Every lineup was unpredictable and different. I didn't know. We started with a style, but we ended up like playing random football. Everything seemed so improvised. So I advocated for Xavi to leave, because you cannot manage Real Madrid with those players for 7 months and get worse week after week after week. So that has nothing to do with it. But in terms of the issue of backing Xavi or backing Vini, it is a mistake for people like Florentino to back players. They should always back the coach. And I will criticize him for that, because I think that's sort of, very, very true. So this is a summer where we're going to see massive changes. Okay, massive changes. There's going to be very big expenditure. But this is Real Madrid. We cannot, this situation is not tolerable. And look at the attention that we get because we got knocked out of the Champions League by Bayern Munich. There's no other club in the world where that would even be news. But this is Real Madrid. When Real Madrid loses a match, it's like, headline news. The pressure in this club is unlike anything in the world of sports. The standard of excellence in this club is unlike anything in the world of sports. And if people forget it, Florentino's going to remind them, and he did it in the dressing room. And the one thing that you can say about Florentino, which is good, is that he has a very clear idea of the standing, where this club needs to be in the world of football. And he's going to fight tooth and nail to make sure that he leaves with Real Madrid back on top, because this is Real Madrid. And the situation currently is completely unsustainable. So I think we're going to have a very, very tricky, long summer. There's going to be rumors flying around everywhere before the World Cup, during the World Cup, after the World Cup. I think we're going to spend a ton of money. We're going to see a lot of players leave, a lot of new players come. The coach thing is still up in the air. I think Arbeloa, you can make a case for him to stay, but I kind of doubt they'll do that. I think that when we're in these situations, the club likes to sort of cut, burn, and reset. So I do think they'll probably bring someone else. But you guys, this is Real Madrid. We're the greatest club in the world. There is no institution in the world that has Real Madrid's aura and magnitude and level of excellence. The things that Real Madrid has done, no other institution in any sport in the world has even come close. This is Real Madrid. We are going to come back because we always do, and because the bar is set very high in this club, and we will not tolerate this. So I have a lot of confidence that we'll bounce back because we always do. Because the bar is set high, and the second that you slip below it, the emergency buttons go off. I'm very confident that we can come back to our rightful place, and I think that next year I'm very hopeful that we'll have plenty of changes there, and that we'll see a much, much better team with more balance, playing more consistent football, with confidence and hunger, and I think that we'll come back to being what we've always been, which is absolutely the greatest club in the world without any shadow of a doubt. Okay, that was a lot to cover. I'm going to leave it here, but I really would love to hear what you guys think in the comments section. So thanks for joining me. I hope you enjoyed it. Hit the like and hype and subscribe and all that stuff. But I really appreciate you guys. So let me know what you think in the comments section. I love you all, and as always and forever, a la Madrid.